So should we wait for some people more to join, or can we start the
I
webinar?
think we can start.
Okay. So first of all, very good afternoon to everyone join this webinar. We would like to welcome you all. Uh, Welcome to the PCI DSS webinar today. Today we will be delving into the world of PCI DSS, which may be a new experience and a framework for many of you. So our goal today is to simplify the subject matter and present it in the simplest way possible with all the PCI DSS controls and all. And this webinar is scheduled to last for around 60 minutes. We may extend it for an additional 15 minutes to accommodate a Q&A session at the end. And during the session, all the attendees will be in a listening mode. So if anyone wishes to speak up, we can unmute you if you have any queries, right? Also, if you have any questions for the presentation, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll try to address as many questions as we can if the time allows. Suppose if we are not able to unable to resolve any query or cover up any kind of question due to time constraint, then we'll our team will, or me or my team will try to follow up with you after the session is over. Okay. And thank you once again for all of you to join. Let's begin the exploration for this PCI DSS framework. We have Manoj with us, who holds more than 19 years of experience with this. So Manoj, you can take this over.
Okay, thanks, Sudhanshu. Hi, everyone. I welcome all of you to this PCI DSS webinar. And there is a bit of story behind this. The new framework version 4.0 has come, and we are going through very strict timeline at this point of time, right? To make sure that corporates are able to cope up with the changes which has come up in the new framework, it was actually required for some organization to step up, and that is where CISA has stepped up onto that. We have huge queries of people, and we have a lot of questions coming from our clients asking, okay, how do we implement? What are the new changes? How do we take it? How do we take it as a project and those kind of stuff? So that is where actually we decided, okay, let's go and have it, let's engage a wider community here so that people are able to understand what are those kind of changes and what kind of strategy we should have to actually, make sure that we are doing a smooth transition, right? With that intent, I will be starting this webinar. Okay, so let's start with it, and this is going to be a 60 minutes webinar. As Sudhanshu has told, this may extend to another 15 minutes just to make sure that we are able to address all your queries. And just in case, if you have a question and we are running short of time, we will make sure that our team is getting back to you through email and those kind of stuff. So please do, let your emails be there as well. Else we will pick it up from the registration page. Right, all attendees will be in the listening mode throughout this particular webinar, but you all are free to put in your questions as and when you have on the chat window so that we can take that up. This is how the entire webinar is going to go. With a little short introduction, we are going to dive into overview of PCI DSS requirement, and then we are going to cover the very fundamental basics of PCI DSS, right? Because that can be a make or break for any company. So we are going to talk about scoping as well. Then I'm going to take you through the evolving and the mandatory requirement. There are total 64 requirement which has come up, which are kind of pretty new. And this may take a quite good amount of effort by the organizations. So we are going to talk about those requirements as well. And then I'm going to also give you a particular transition approach from CISA perspective, because we have been serving a lot of clients, a client base of more than 2,000 customers across the globe. So that is where, we have some very good intel on that. We have some very good experience on that. So I'm going to share all that with you guys. And then how the CISA certifications, because CISA has CISA training as the training arm for CISA. That is where we actually go and post a lot of certifications. We do a lot of trainings. So if you guys are more interested into getting, into more into depth, definitely CISA is there with you all the time. Okay, so let's get started. Just a bit of introduction about myself. My name is Manoj Sharma. I'm the Director Delivery and Trading here at CISA. I have overall 25 years of experience. Out of that, 19 plus purely into cybersecurity. And payment security, I have 5+ years of experience. I am basically a military veteran. I have been from Indian Air Force. I am a champion into governance, risk, and compliance. And we work with a lot of payment security firms. We perform a lot of gap assessments, audit, and passion is there for training as of as far as I am concerned. So I have been training for a long time now. So here, a small glimpse on CISA. CISA have been known as a forensic-driven cybersecurity firm, and we do provide a lot of forensic services. Apart from forensic services, we do provide services across all aspects of payment security as well. But the major highlight is we are one of the top 4 PFI. PFI stands for Payment Forensic Investigators. And as and when there is a major breach happening or a suspect breach is there, CISA is called to perform the investigation. And then we decipher that particular incident, and the learning, whatever comes to us, we actually disseminate this to the all, just like I am disseminating now. So all the trainings from CISA, they are very much forensic driven trainings. We have at least 1,000 active engagement every year. We have like 2,000 plus customer spread across like 40 plus countries. And some of the certifications like the flagship certification CPI-SI has got more than 10,500 certified candidates across the world. And that is why it is called as a gold standard in payment security. A little bit more about CISA, right? We have been there with the PCI Security Standard Council since their inception by itself. So we have been a key stakeholder there. And we have been trusting, we have been delivering trusted training to our clients since then, right? After its inception in 2004. We have like 1,000 plus customer engagement every year. And, we are also participating in some global executive assessor roundtable conferences as well, which are kind of, decision-taking authorities when it comes to a global scale. And we have been, as I told you, PCI forensic investigator, and we do a lot of, investigation, threat analysis, and all this kind of stuff. So let's come on this subject, and here I have broken down this entire PCI DSS as a difference in depth for you. So whatever you see on your screen, security is always applied in a difference in depth model. And here it is no different when it comes to PCI DSS as well. In the version 4, you can see there are different controls. There are total 12 requirements, which are actually grouped under 6 control domains. The first one being network security, area there. That is where we have 2 requirements. One of the requirement focuses on where should we put the network security controls, how you need to manage them. And then the requirement number 2 talks about configuration management. On a 6 monthly basis, at least, you have to go and review your requirements as well. Then control domain 2 is all about cardholder data security, and there are certain requirements when it comes to cardholder data, account data, sensitive authentication data, all of that, right, being covered under this particular control domain. Then we have control domain number 3, which talks about system and software security. So the focus here is security of the systems by having, protecting the systems from anti-malware and those kind of stuff. At the same time, there are requirements like, for example, requirement number 6, which focuses on secure development of applications. So this is where, if you guys have some developers in your organizations and they are involved into development of bespoke or tailor-made applications, all of that, that is where you can take some guidance from PCI SSL framework as well to make this possible. Then we have control domain number 4, which talks about access control, and it has been holistically being covered in PCI DSS. So requirement number 7 talks about managing access security, what kind of access control model you should deploy, what kind of access control system you should have, and then requirement number 8 focus on logical security, which is more of setting up a central access control system, enabling multi-factor authentication, security of multi-factor authentication devices, and so on. And requirement number 9 is all about physical access controls as well, because if you think it more from a holistic perspective, right? Physical security is one of the component of security, and if you're not caring much for physical security, ultimately your digital security may get compromised. So it's work, in a very cognitive fashion. So that is where physical security controls also there in requirement number 9. Then we have control domain number 5, which talks about logging and monitoring, because by now, even if you have the best and latest of the controls which you have implemented, but you are not able to monitor them, you are not able to have the right log sources identified, you don't have monitoring of these controls on a regular basis, and you don't have testing as well, because that's a very, very important aspect of the entire security stuff. So all of those kind of requirements are there in requirement number 10 and 11. Control domain number 6 talks about governing the PCI DSS program. Now here you will see in most of the other framework, normally they start with governance first, but it's little different in PCI DSS. We are talking about governance and concluding all the requirements under this particular control domain. So this is where we talks about information security policies, we talks about requirement, how you maintain compliance, how well you do the scoping, how frequently you need to do certain activities, and those kind of stuff, right? Including managing your third-party service providers as well. So these are the 6, domains, control domains in PCI DSS. This slide I am hoping, right, will give you the complete insight of how entire PCI DSS as a framework has been designed to be, right? So this is one slider on PCI DSS. Now, we will touch upon a very, very fundamental concept here before we get into the changes, because this is where it can be a make or break for anyone, right? For any firm. If you are not able to scope your systems well, then it can be the case wherein you are investing more time and effort into security, and still you are not able to meet your compliance. And even if you do that, there will be breaches which will be happening. So that is where you need to understand your environment, and then you need to categorize them under category 1, category 2, and category 3 systems and components. Cat 1 devices are the devices which actually directly process any kind of information. Either they process or they store or they transmit cardholder data. These kind of systems, they are called as infectious system, because if any system touches these kind of system, will get impacted, just like COVID, right? So that's your Cat 1. And then there might be additional services, because no system can remain in a particular environment without the support of other systems, right? For example, these Cat 1 devices, they need DNS services, they need Windows update, they need time syncing and all of that. So there are a lot of other services also which are supporting Cat 1. And for that purpose, we have Cat 2 devices. And it cannot be, or you can say it's not feasible to have this all set of systems at Cat 2 separately for your PCI DSS environment. It's not business logical. So that is where all these kind of services, they are called as shared security services, and they come as part of Cat 2. And Cat 1 and Cat 2, both of these categories will actually form your cardholder data environment. We call it as CDE. What criteria we need to have? We need to have both the approaches. One is called as scoping in approach, which you can see on your slide. CDE systems. So any system which is storing, processing, transmitting cardholder data, or it is connected with the cardholder data systems, right? In any ways, they are in the scope, right? You on the right hand side, you can see some additional scopes. You can put up these criteria one by one with the OR statement, and any system which is meeting any of these requirements will be falling under your cardholder data environment. Now, what about how do you go and segregate your systems which are not under your cardholder data environment? I think for that also we need a criteria. Yes, there is a criteria. And this criteria is system component which do not store, process, or transmit cardholder data. For sure, they are out of this thing, but it has to also meet the another requirement, which says that system component is not in the same network segment, because that's very important. If any system which is touching the cardholder data environment in any form, that will definitely come back into the cardholder data environment. So we need to also make sure that these systems are not touching the cardholder data environment in any sense. They should also not be able to influence the security of the cardholder data in any sense, right? So if you are going to apply these 3-4 criteria in a logical manner, then you will be well able to, identify the inventory of the systems which are going to be in scope and the inventory of the system which is going to be out of scope. I'm covering this slide because this is very, very important for any firm, because if you do it right, it is going to save a lot of money for the company as well. It will save a lot of effort for the security team who is actually behind implementing these controls, right? So that's all about it on the scoping side. If you have question, feel free to put it on your chat window. I will be taking up those questions once the session is done. Okay, so let's talk about changes now. I have told in my previous webinar as well that a lot has changed, right? Version 3.2.1, which was the previous version, it has been upgraded to version 4.0, and there has been a major change in this particular version. That is why we are not terming it as 3.2.2. We have put a term like version 4.0. That means there is a lot of changes which has come in this framework. You guys can estimate the changes from the fact that the previous framework was just 139 pages, and this particular framework is 360 pages. So there has not been modifications in terms of evolving requirement, which we are going to talk about now. There are some new requirement which has been added. There are a few requirements which has been changed. There has been a lot of explanation on the testing procedures as well for the QSAs and the internal security assessors. There has been some requirement which has been removed, right? It's all done just to make sure that the framework is in line with the latest, evolving technologies and the risk which is coming across, right? Then there is a lot of clarifications also added in the particular framework. You can see a lot of explanation, definitions, references, examples, a lot of things, right, on that way. There has been a major change in the structure and the format. I have already told you the framework has grown bigger now from 139 pages to 360 pages now. There has been a reorganization of the entire content, and there has been changes in the requirement numbering as well. So if you have certain, changes or some kind of format where you are tracking all these kind of controls, right? Those kind of numbers may also change right now. So you need to be extra cautious of that. You can see on the right hand side, I have given a quick snip of the summary of changes, which is all evolving changes, right? Now, before I go and talk about much about these changes requirement wise, I would like to tell you guys there are total 64 changes, which are the major changes in this particular framework from a control perspective. 13 changes out of them are mandatory changes, which means that you need to immediately implement those changes. Can I go for PCI DSS assessment as on today? Yes, very well. You can go for these version 4.0 as on today as well. But you need to make sure that those mandatory requirements are fulfilled. And they're kind of easy, right? It's not PCI DSS has not thrown you under the bus for sure, right? Because see, most of those requirements, 30 requirement, the major emphasis has been on, how well you fix your accountability. So in your documentation part, roles and responsibility has been a big area where all of those changes are mandatory. So you can definitely meet that requirement by changing some policies and all of them, making your stakeholders aware of that. So that's one thing. Another good thing in this particular framework is PCI DSS. They have acknowledged that there are challenges when merchants, they reach out to the service providers and they try to seek for help. They may try to seek for compliance status, and that is where a lot of goof up happens in the industry. So that is where there has been certain requirement which has been put up for specifically for service providers. So now you have all the authority in black and white, so you can reach out to the service provider and ask them, okay, as per this particular requirement, you are supposed to show me all these kind of reports and your compliance status. So that has been a great change in this particular as a mandatory control, because they have to be immediately implemented, just not by merchant but by the service provider as well. So that's a great thing, right? On the other side, there are 51 changes in this particular framework which are called as evolving requirement. So PCI DSS has given some time for all of us to get acquainted with the framework, to implement these kind of framework, right? And then implement those controls, roll out those controls, see their effectiveness, and then go for the compliance. So that is how, as you see on the right hand side, those controls are spread across all the requirements as of now, right? So let's get a little bit more into this. We will go requirement wise and we will try to cover these changes. So let's pick up the requirement number 1, which is network security control. So this particular requirement focuses on where you are going to put up your network security controls, how you are going to implement, where you are going to implement, all of that, right? In this entire requirement, the focus has been enhanced towards the implementation of network security controls. See, a major difference, if many of you are already familiar with version 3.2.1 or you have implemented those, the focus was more on routers and gateways and firewalls, all of that, right? That particular term has now evolved. We have software defined networking, we have things like cloud and so on. So just to make sure that we keep pace with the evolving technologies, that particular firewall and router word has been changed to network security controls, which actually encompasses all of those controls. It can include your IDS, your IPS, your firewall, your software defined networking, your rules, and whatnot, right? So that has been a major change in this particular requirement. Also, you need to now formally go and validate the configuration of your network security devices after every 6 months. So these are the major changes for requirement number 1. Requirement number 2, as such, which is focused on configuration and management of network security controls, I don't see a major change in this particular requirement, but again, roles and responsibilities has been spread across all the requirements, right? So that is mandatory as well. You cannot wait on that, right? So that's about your requirement number 2. Requirement number 3 is focusing on security of account data. When I say account data, it is all about your cardholder name, your primary account number, your expiry date, all of that stuff, plus your PIN, your track data, which is there in your EFB chip and or your magnetic stripe, all of that, right? Or it may be your CVV2 as well, which is there at the back side of the card. So there has been a specific requirement from both the perspective. In total, we call it as account data, which also contains your cardholder data, which I told you earlier, and also sensitive authentication data, which may include your PIN, your CVV2 value, or your track data. Now, the first change is on the sensitive authentication data. Earlier also this change was there, this particular control was there, but in this particular version of framework, the sensitive authentication data, even if you are storing it for a very short period of time, let's say for 5 to 6 seconds as well, you need to make sure that is encrypted. So you cannot anymore store your sensitive authentication data more than more than the transaction timeline. But in that period as well, you need to encrypt it. Now, this may be a major change for many of you, because if your company is designing applications and all of that, you need to take care of this control. This can be a black sheep in the entire thing. So you need to think about that. Then security of PAN during remote access. So this is where, just think of a scenario that a system admin is sitting at home and he's trying to access the cardholder data environment, and he's going to work on this because it is part of his roles and duties on a daily basis. What can happen is, the threat is he can copy some data, paste it across. So the requirement has clearly prohibited that kind of thing. They have said you cannot copy, paste, or screenshot the data which is relating to your primary account numbers. That's a major change. If you guys have not implemented, you have to start thinking of that. Then on the cryptographic hashes, we use hashes a lot. Just to make sure that data is obfuscated, we are able to secure the data, nobody is able to understand the data, all of that. Hashes are, somewhere susceptible to man-in-the-middle attack, and that is why it has been recommended that you implement keyed hashes, right? So just like you have to implement keyed hashing by way of CMAC, HMAC, and those kind of technologies. Okay. Next requirement is on the disk partition level encryption. So many of you say, right, it's good, right? We have the partition level encryption. What is bad in that? There's nothing bad in that, but the requirement is, if you have an external device and you are encrypting the entire, the hard drive with your encryption, is good. There's no problem with that. But if you're encrypting your internal hard drive, which is connected with your system, maybe it's your SAN, or it may be your NAS, or it may be your internal hard drive as well. In those cases, if you are going to implement the entire hard disk encryption, you need to specifically go and render the PAN data unreadable separately, right? So that's a major requirement. I think it's not that easy. You may need to implement column level encryption, cell level, suppression, and those kind of stuff. So I think this is the major controls. You guys need to think about that. Okay. Then service providers, specifically if they are, they are using different keys for, different environment. So it has been now mandated. If they have production environment, they have test environment, they have development environment. In all of that, they have to use different keys. They cannot use the same key everywhere. So that's a specific requirement from requirement number 3. From requirement number 4, which is security of account data in motion. That is when the data is kind of traveling, right? So that is where, roles and responsibilities, maintain inventory of trusted keys and certificate. I don't think many people in the industry, they are following this practice. As and when certifications are getting expired, and then there is always a firefighting across that. So that is where now you cannot do that anymore. From a compliance perspective, you need to formally maintain a list of trusted keys and certificates, including their expiry, when they are going to expire, and if there are certain digital signatures which are suspected to be compromised, all of those kind of things, right? You need to make. Then the next one is ensure validity of digital certificates. Now, digital certificates, we all know, they are not given for the lifetime. They always have a validity. It may be 1 year, 2 year, based on the requirement. Many times, companies, they forget renewal of these kind of certificates, and that can lead you to a bad situation as well. So that is where those kind of digital certificates need to be ensured they are still valid. So there are requirements, a lot of changes in requirement number 5 as well, which talks about security of systems. Earlier in 3.2.1, we used to call it as antivirus. Now the name has changed to anti-malware, because we all know the way security softwares are enhancing. EDR solutions coming up, XDR, and all of that things coming up, right? Then enhanced focus on periodic malware scans. Now, this is up to the company how frequently they want to schedule these scans. It can be weekly, it can be every 15 days. This has been left to the company who is going to implement the controls. But yes, you need to formally perform a targeted risk assessment to do that. Then periodic evaluation of system not installed with antivirus. There might be some systems which do not have antivirus solutions because you don't think it is required. So for all those things, right, you need to have a documentary evidence of all those kind of things over there. Auto scan the removable electronic media. I think this is a small controls all of you can implement. Already the anti-malware solution, they already come up with this particular capabilities out there. Then anti-malware capability to detect and protect against phishing attacks. So phishing attack is another one of the very specific area where the framework is focusing this time. And there are a specific requirement that the anti-malware solution should also include those, catching up of all those phishing attempts. So that's your requirement number 5. Requirement number 6 talks about software security. This is where your development, SDLC, all of that things comes into place. So organization who is into development of bespoke or custom applications, they need to maintain the inventory for sure, right? And then they also need to implement respective detection and preventive mechanism to prevent any kind of web-based attack, which directly indicates that you need to have web application firewall to be installed. So if not done, I think this is the right time to do. We still have time for this particular requirement, but yes, that's a very, very major control which you may have to implement. Then managing security in all payment page script, again, very new. It was not in their version 3.2.1. Now, any kind of payment script, if you're running on your payment page, which is going to get executed on the client side, you need to make sure the integrity of those, scripts are intact at all times. How you are going to do that? You are going to implement the file integrity monitor for all of that, and at least on a weekly basis, you are going to check it. So those are the kind of changes in requirement number 6. Requirement number 7, 8, and 9. These 3 requirements is all about access controls. So you need to perform access reviews, not only for normal accounts, also for your service account and application accounts as well, because that is oftentimes a gray area. That is where a lot of gap also exists out there, right? So that has been identified. Then avoid usage of shared account. I think we all understand the risk behind, and that is why the council is pushing us for that. Account logout, max authentication attempt, like after every 10 attempts, that's the maximum limit. You can keep it 5, you can keep it 3, most recommendable. But from the framework perspective, account logout happens should be maximum to 10 attempts. Minimum password length has been increased to 12 characters. As earlier, it was 7 characters. So a big change. You have to see if your softwares are supporting it. If in case you have a use case where your software or your infrastructure does not support it, then at least it has to be 8 characters, and that has to be documented, and the risk has to be accepted by the management. Every 90 days, you need to change the passwords. And for service providers as well, if they are having accounts for their merchants and they are using single factor authentication, yes, they have to change the password every 90 days. Multi-factor authenticator for all cardholder data access. So this is a major change because cardholder data environment in version 2.2.1, the access and implementation of MFA was only for the administrators. Now in this version, it is all access, irrespective of you are an admin user or you are a normal user. So that's a major change which need to be done. And then, many times it happens, right? We hard code all these credentials into applications just for ease and all of that kind of stuff. No more it can be afforded. Framework has quickly and very deliberately emphasized this as one of the controls. So no more hard coding of credentials, and especially unencrypted credentials, right? So that is important change. From a physical security perspective, we have a lot of point of interaction devices, like let's say your point of sale application, or your virtual payment applications, or maybe ATM machines, all of that, right? So those devices has to be inspected on a periodic basis. You have to spread awareness on that, because there has been some cases in the past wherein those kind of devices has been compromised by the attacker. So those are the kind of things which you have to decide based on your risk status. Then requirement number 10 is all about logging and monitoring. First emphasis is on automated log reviews. So you have to have a SIM now. There is no other option out there until you have a very different controls which do that automatically. Otherwise, you need to implement SIM for sure, and there has to be a daily inspection of all the critical events which are there in the cardholder data environment. For other systems which are not there in cardholder data environment, right? You need to perform a targeted risk assessment to evaluate how frequently you are going to monitor those logs, right? And then in many cases, if a security controls, let's say your firewall is down, or your IPS is down, that is where those critical control failure has to be taken immediately as per the requirement. You need to trigger the incident response plan and all of that. You need to take it on priority and remediate it. So those are major changes which are there for requirement number 10. Requirement number 11 is all about testing of systems in cardholder data environment. One of the change which has been fundamental, earlier it was that many organizations, they were performing the vulnerability assessments based on normal discovery scans. No more possible now. You have to actually go for authenticated scans as well, right? So you have to scale up. This may be a bigger change for some of the organizations, because you have to have your team scale up quickly. The number of vulnerabilities may increase, and you may get more insight about your risk posture out there, right? So that's one control everybody has to look out that. Multi-tenant service provider to support customers on external pen testing. It was often a challenge area most of the time, right? Service providers, they don't come back on time and give insight on if they have performed the pen testing or not. So either now the merchant can request to perform their own pen testing on their services, even if they are multi-tenant, or otherwise the service provider has to get it done from a third party and share the report with you. So that's a major change. Then, you need to also implement IDS, IPS for preventing covert communication. So everybody knows covert communication is kind of hidden communication that doesn't use the normal communication methods, right? That has been emphasized because that is where the attackers play their role. They use a lot of web shell and those kind of softwares to, to defeat the defenses out there, right? So that is where you need to see for this. Then deploying change and temper detection on payment pages. So many times it happens that there are headers which are being changed by the attackers and all of that. There has been incident in the past 3 years, and that is why PCI DSS has come up with this particular change. Requirement number 12, all focused on governance. We talk about accountability. Accountability is heavily pushed in this particular version of the framework. TRA for determining frequency of activities. So in most of the cases throughout this particular framework, the framework has been very specific. They have done a great job. They specifically mention, okay, this activity has to be performed every 3 months, every 6 months, every year or so. But there are total 9 such places where the framework says it has to be decided by the company. So anywhere there is a flexibility in timelines, you have to perform a targeted risk assessment on that particular control and decide the frequency. So that's a major change. TRA for meeting a requirement with customized approach. So now in this particular framework, there is a concept called as customized requirement, which gives a lot of flexibility for companies to meet these control objectives by having their own approach, right? Which is kind of a great thing. But yes, there is a lot of things which we need to discuss on customized, approach. So stay tuned for my future webinars on that as well. I'm going to give you very valuable insight on the customized approach as well, including some kind of use cases out there, because that's a separate topic by itself, right? Then every year, organization has to formally go and review all the cryptographic ciphers which they are using, because you know how quickly a cipher can be non-effective, it can be breached, it can be compromised. You all know that, right? In security world, there is nothing permanent. So that is where this has been a control out there. Then yearly formal confirmation on PCI DSS scope. Now, many organizations, they think, okay, I have done my scoping. I am done with it, man. What do I need to worry now? It's not the case anymore. You have to go and perform a formal scoping every year, because, you know, your environment is changing. It's dynamic in nature, right? There are new systems coming in. There are few systems going out all the time. You need to take care of it. So that's a now formal control out there in this particular framework. There has been a lot of emphasis on security awareness as well. So there are trainings for developers. That's a requirement number 6.2. There has been a emphasis on security awareness for the normal stakeholders. That is requirement number 12.6.2. There has been a specific requirement for people who are into implementation. So they need to have implementation training, just like CPISI certification, which CISA provide. That is also one of the requirement. And then there is requirement under control 12.10.4, which talks about, you know, training for incident response team as well. So nothing has been left behind. A lot of training. There is a lot of emphasis on performing security awareness and training across the particular framework. So, and the content has to be reviewed every year. For major organizations, it can be a big challenge, right? That is where companies like CISA, we do play a very important part, because we know what is happening in the industry. We go and do a lot of investigations across there. So we are always in a process of scaling up and, you know, changing our content out there. So that's a very specific area. There has been periodic, you know, you need to also create a lot of run books into your incident response, detecting any kind of rogue Wi-Fi routers and, you know, change detection mechanism, all of that. So a lot of emphasis on incident response as well in this particular version of framework. And then, you know, as we discussed, right, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to when merchants, they reach out to service providers. That has been nailed now, right? So you can always go and refer, okay, this is where, as per this clause of the particular framework, the service provider has to support me on these aspects, right? So that is also one of the part of the major change. So whatever I have told you is all major changes, which I feel we could have covered in a very short time. But there are more changes. If you want to understand more in depth about all these changes, how do we approach about it, what kind of planning we should do, all of that, yes, we can help you. We have a training in CISA for that. So anyways, but I should give you some kind of transition as well, because we have discussed about the problem statement. Let's talk about the solution as well, right? So how you're going to reach out to meet these kind of requirements? I think the first thing is you need to start well ahead in time, and you need to prepare a time-bound plan. You need to obtain your leadership buy-in as well, because if leadership is not supporting on your budgeting, because all these controls will require you to invest money out there. It's security doesn't come for free, right? So that is where you need to do those changes first. Then you need to implement PCI DSS training across your company for developers, for implementers, for normal public, and as well as for incident responders as well. So start with it. It's the time to do that. Engage a QSA, because QSA can make your life very easy throughout this particular journey, because QSAs are the ones who are actually going and auditing different companies. They know what gaps can happen, where the slips can happen. They can help you for sure. And that is where CISA has such a quality QSAs around there to help you out. Okay. Then perform a gap assessment. That is where you need to understand what controls we already have, what controls we need, what is the delta, and then you start working on that. You need to also validate your scoping, because that is the point where you should start. thinking about if there are more systems which need to be added to the scope or something we can remove from the scope. You need to always have that kind of approach, right? And then decide if you're going to meet certain controls through the customized approach or by the defined approach, which is kind of traditional approach of meeting it. So just think about that. If you want to go for customized requirement, go and perform a TRA for sure, because you need to end of the day prove this, that your approach is meeting the control objective. Then also, when you implement controls, define your key risk indicators, key performance indicator for tracking, mostly done automatically, and that is where you will get better inputs out of that. You have to test and validate these kind of controls. Then end of the year, you need to fill up your report on compliance on or SAQs, whatever applies to you. Okay, that means getting yourself audited from a third party, right? Or in some cases, if you're not level 1, you are level 2 or 3 or so, you can go for self-assessment questionnaire as well with attestation of compliance document, which has to be signed by your highest management. And then you can maintain the ongoing compliant out there. So I think this should be your high level strategic plan. Obviously there will be multiple steps you can drive out of it, but this is how the entire thing should revolve. This is a kind of framework for you guys. I want to emphasize this one more time, that the version 3.2.1 is going to expire on 31st March 2024. So time is reaching very, very fast. You guys need to start early on that, because implementing all these 64 controls is gonna take time for your organization, right? And this is where companies are also looking for people who are experienced into this, who have the required knowledge and skill for that. And that is where you guys can play a very, very important part. This can also be a big booster for your experience and your career as well. So you need to start early. You need to budget sufficient time and money in there. You need to have skilled resources for sure. If you're looking from a corporate perspective, if you're looking for a personal perspective, yes, it is an opportunity for you to actually learn the CPI-SI certification. It is the gold standard certification in payment security, and that can really help you to get your seat booked in there, because at this point of time, organizations are looking for skilled resources at this point. Okay, and one more thing, by 31st March 2025, the all 64 requirement are going to be applicable. If a single requirement is not met by the company, they will be held non compliant. So there's no doubt about it. So this is the time, this is the time crunch where you guys need to play. So a little bit talking about the skill part as well, because it's some data I have acquired from some reports out there. You can see I have taken it from Fortinet, recent report which has come up. Every company, almost 80% of the companies, they have been impacted because of cybersecurity breaches in the last year. And 19% of them has suffered it multiple times. And that's how the world is going. Recruitment and retention of talent is a big problem for organizations. 60% of the organizations are struggling to retain the talent, because people are getting good offers, right? Especially in payment security, there are very less people, right? They need skilled people out there. So that is the kind of thing. And for that, if you want to get into that particular slot, I think the only way for you is to get it stamped. How you're going to get your skill stamped is by a certification, right? So that is where we have certain very good certifications for all of you guys. One of them is, if you're just starting with it, this is a career enabler for you. This entire CPI-SI certification is a gold standard, and it is purely focused on PCI DSS. So we have a lot of trainings which are for auditors, all of that, but very, very few trainings are for implementers. And believe me, this entire training is all forensic driven. So if you have the forensic driven mindset, implementation of controls becomes so easy for you, because you understand what is the risk out there, how a slip can happen, all of that, right? So we are going to put up all our experience into this. We also have the advanced version of this. If you're already CPI SI certified, because we have by now trained 10,500 people out there. If you have already been certified, go for the advance. It's the time to go for the advance. In advance, we cover the entire payment industry with different payment forms, all of that. Okay, so that's one specialized area. Then another specialized area is software development. If you are a developer working with applications, especially touching payment security, yes, this is one certification which is there for you. And then if you are even a incident responder or a SOC team analyst and you are into forensic and all those kind of stuff, go for CIDR certification, excellent certification from CISA. Apart from this as well, if your company is looking for, some security awareness training, payment security awareness training, we do have those trainings as well. And we have it available in all the modes, like hybrid, wherein we give you access to the portal, and then on a weekly basis, me and my team will connect with you guys for training. That's the hybrid mode. 2 days mode is where you guys spend some 2 dedicated days for a training, online training with us, and we train you, we run the workshop for you, all of that. And then it is also on site. If you guys are looking for somebody to come and fly at your location and deliver the training to you guys, yes, we do that as well. So we have been we are getting a high demand for all these trainings, especially at a time when there is a shift in the entire framework from version 3.2.1 to version 4.0, right? So with that, I will hand it over to my friend Sudhanshu. Sudhanshu, are you there?
Yes, Manoj, I'm there.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, 1 second. So, hi everyone, and thank you, Manoj, for the insightful session till now. For those who have joined later, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Sudhanshu, and I oversee the business of operations, in India, US, and other regions at CISA Institute. So, talking about the modalities, in which modes we have this trainings available. So, you might be having this question that how do we enroll into one of these programs right now? So, let me tell you that we have an on-site training, which is majorly for corporates, where which is not available for individual people, yeah, but for when we have the specific number of minimum of participants available from a company, we can do a enterprise session or on-site training as for them as well. Other one is we have a 2 days online workshop too, which is spread it across 8 hours a day, followed up by the certification. Now, since if like Manoj has also informed, uh, since there were a lot of requirements from the industries, deadlines were coming up, right? So the industries want us to deliver as much training as we can. So then, we saw a steep increase in the requirement also. So apart from the on-site and the 2 days of workshop, uh, we came up with the third mode of training, which we call as hybrid training model, like you can see over there, which we also a cohort training model as well. Now in hybrid, what happens is it's an online training augmented with live training, and in this hybrid model, we give you the access for the platform for 30 days. And every Thursday, you have the live session with Manoj in the evening at 7 p.m. till 8:30. So 90 minutes we have to give on a weekly basis. There will be Karthik, there will be other trainers from our team, like Manoj informed. Here we, in this hybrid model, we normally deep dive into the subject. Uh, we have a lot of content to cover up. We have a lot of case studies to discuss. So we make sure that you are also, we make sure that you're able to talk to the trainer, discuss or engage with them. So normally we try to make it as engaging and as interactive as possible. Every Thursday, like I said, we will be having this live training in the evening for 90 minutes. Furthermore, this hybrid model also comes up if you see on the right hand side. It's a learning management system. So like I said, you get the platform access for 30 days, which also includes your notes. We include your modules in every week, and there is a predefined target, for 15 hours. 15 hours of learning is there. We predefine your target of learning videos, which includes 15 hours of videos, and you also have to if we see, you have to cover up around 45 minutes in a day. So maybe we can be, and that's how we'll be able to cover the entire training system and training modality by 30 days. And yeah, and this is, if you see, the hybrid model is kind of a flexible approach, because if people don't have that much of time to spare 8 hours in a day, during their working hours, they can come up for the hybrid model as well. If not, if the hybrid model is not suitable to you, then we definitely have the 2 days of workshop, which is also again a remote, and which is spread across for 8 hours in both the days. So yeah, and Manoj, can you move on to the next page? Manoj, can you hear me?
Yes, Sudhanshu.
Yeah, can we move on to the next page?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was typing some chat answers there. We have a lot of queries.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, please go.
So yes, so team, this is how the platform looks like. If you see, we have training notes available. As I said, you have weekly modules on the left hand side. There's a very small, if you can see over there. There are assignments. So every day is defined, for you all. How you'll be going through a defined approach on a daily basis then. And on the right hand side, if you see, it's a small snip from the last batch that we were discussing about a case study where where a service provider got compromised and around 12 million credit cards were stolen. So what we try to do is we try to focus on live forensic driven approach, or during the training system. And I would say this is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to learn more, to understand the concepts, and to take your time to consume the content as well. And on the below, you can see how that's how we have divided the entire 4 week. So we start on the commencement date, it goes for 90 minutes, as Manoj also informed. Then you come up with the self-learning part, and then every Thursday you will be having the live session. So that's how we divide the entire 4 days. Yeah, Manoj, we can move on to the next page. Yeah, so apart from that, we have a couple of benefits as well, and an offer which we are providing it for the people who have joined this webinar. Manoj, can you move on to the next slide? Yeah, so this is the exciting offer that we have made available for you all. So for a very limited time, like people who have joined this webinar, and if you enroll in the certificate, if you want to enroll in the certification, and if you try to enroll by today and tomorrow, we'll be giving a flat 20% discount on the training. And if someone needs more time to understand and make a decision, needs time to come to a conclusion, then we have a 10% discount post tomorrow for them directly. So we want to ensure that you have ample of time. So people who wants to know that they need to understand it more or have some more queries, then I'll be there to resolve it out, and then you can connect with me out. So that's the number that I have given it to you all, and my training, my email ID as well. Right. So yeah, I would like to let's Anuj, let's take the queries now.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I see a lot of queries out there, flooded all around. I have answered some of them. Let me pick up one by one and answer you guys. So first question is on attendees receive CPI certification. Yes, after the training, you go through a certification exam, which is a international proctored exam. So as per international standard, you are going to get this certification, right? If you pass and get 66% in the exam. And training, if you are doing the training religiously, yes, you can very well be there. Will the recording of the session be shared to us post session? Yes, Yuti, it will be shared with you guys. Our team will be reaching out with emails and connecting with you also, and they will also provide you the recording as well. So that is done. I will go to Palniappan. I am from US health care domain. We have access to virtual one-time use credit card. Is PCI DSS still applicable? Yes, very much it is applicable. Even if it is a physical card or it's a virtual card is nothing but postcard emulation, some form of transition into the software. That's all we use. But yes, all of those things are applicable. Can we get this presentation for future reference? You may not get the presentation, but yes, for sure, you are going to get the recording. I think that's my answer. Please provide example of non-connecting but could impact system services. Okay, so it may happen that in some cases you have certain systems which can be leveraged by an attacker to get into your environment, maybe directly or in some cases indirectly. So there are cases wherein a computer system can be used to do the lateral movement in the organization, right? So while you are scoping out, you need to make sure that these kind of systems are purely disconnected from the cardholder data environment. There is a complete separate environment, and cardholder data environment is a completely separate environment. Do join us into the training. I have a lot of examples also to kind of give you guys on that. That will definitely help. I have Amal Shah as well. What about management IP, subnet, VLAN, which is supporting this infrastructure? Will it be CDE or non-CDE? I think you have again put up, Amal, you are saying about management IPs and devices, all of that, right? If they are touching, simple answer is, if they are touching the cardholder data environment, not the IPs, but the devices, right? But the software or the applications. If they are touching the cardholder data environment, yes, they are into the scope. Right? Even if they are not processing, storing, or transmitting cardholder data. It's just like that. So it's just like if you are, if somebody is COVID impacted and other person is touching it, even if he is infected or not infected, they have to go for the test. As simple as that. Okay. What if the system is a third party system not storing any cardholders or sensitive authentication data, connects directly to the cardholder data environment, but it is not in the same network segment either? Would it not be in scope? So you say it's not storing any cardholder data environment, correct? Connects directly with the cardholder data environment. I think that's the key. Even if it is not storing, processing, transmitting cardholder data, even if it is touching, right? That means it can impact the security. Somebody can do the lateral movement to get into the CDE. So definitely it is in scope. Okay, Amal, I think I have answered your query there. You are also there on LinkedIn with me, so we can discuss further. There are 12 requirements of PCI DSS. If yes, then are these mandatory for organization to follow? Yes, all of them are mandatory until they are not applicable for you. If they are applicable, there is nothing like, it's not ISO that you pick up and choose your control as per your requirement. All the requirements are kind of applicable to you. Okay, so I think I have answered this. Please, could you share some examples, device systems that Cat3 under scoping? So Cat3 can be any system which do not, it can be simple laptop as well, right? Because it is not touching the cardholder data environment in any case. It is not processing, transmitting, or storing cardholder data by itself. So completely away from the cardholder data environment can be your Cat3 system. Okay. So I have one question from Shruti. What is the difference between Cat1 and Cat2 in the cardholder data environment? What does shared security services refer to in Cat2? Okay, very great question, I would say. So Cat1 devices are the systems which are directly processing cardholder data, right? Then there are systems which are connected with the cardholder data environment. Yes, they are in scope. Then there are certain services, for example, patch management server. They don't need to process cardholder data, but they are connected. They're giving services to these systems. There can be a network time system. There can be a DNS system. There can be a DHCP system. All of these services are required for these cardholder data environment to function. And for that, we have Cat2 devices. So all of these Cat2 devices, normally it's not business logical to have them separate for these set of systems and separate for other production system. We use them as a shared services. And that is why they are in the scope of cardholder data environment. You need to have implement the same set of control there for Cat2 devices as well, right? So I hope I have answered your question, Shruti. How to get started to pivot towards 4.0? Is there a checklist to follow, etc.? Yes, Simon, there is a perfect checklist. I'm going to give you guys a lot of strategies around how you should follow about it, what you should do, all of that. Everything is available in CPSI certification, right? Do join us. It's a wonderful certification to do. Do we receive a copy of the training slides? You are going to get the recording anyways, guys. Will employee monitoring and time tracker application that is installed on the employee's computer or cloud-based will be part of PCI scoping? If employee monitoring and time tracker, if yes, you are working on a system and you are accessing these applications there on that means there is a connectivity which already exists. If it is so, yes, it will come in scope. So avoid, first thing is you can avoid these kind of things because these can be done from different systems as well. If you're referring to your laptop because you are part of cardholder data environment and then you're referring to these applications, make sure at single point of time you're not connected with both the environment. Okay, so that's the short-term measure you can take. What data is included in escrow holder data? Do we not process or handle the card? What data is included in cardholder data? Okay, so cardholder data is very simple, right? Your credit card number, your name, your expiry date, your bank name, all of that, right? What you see in the front of the card is your cardholder data. What is sensitive authentication data is your PIN, is your CVV2, which is there at the back side of the card, or the magnetic stripe or the chip, which is there, that also includes some data. That is called as track data. We do not process or handle the card life cycle, but in our remittance system, we store cardholder name and card number. Okay, cardholder name and card. You can store cardholder name. There is no problem with that. If you are storing cardholder number, the PAN number, right? That is where you need to make sure that is encrypted and is rendered unreadable. These two data are part of remittance transactions. Yeah. So I think that is where you can store it, but you need to follow certain instructions. And because you are storing the cardholder data in some way or the other, if you are level 2, level 3, level 4 merchant providers, service providers, or a merchant, you need to actually go and fill up SAQD. If you are level 1, no chance. You have to go for full-fledged assessment. Okay, so I hope I have answered that. Even if guys, I feel we are slightly over time. Is it okay I answer all these questions later? Maybe we can connect with you guys and can send you the responses. I see a lot of questions flowing.
Manoj, can we answer one question, which is, from a lot of people who don't have the similar background. So
Okay.
what if they, do the certification, and then what opportunities will they have, or do they need any prerequisite before the certification like that?
Yeah. So there is a prerequisite. You need to have 1 year of experience in payment security. That is condition number 1. But if you are just starting with your career and want to get into payment security, I think if you join CISA trainings, so CISA training is one of the requirements which will fill up that 1 year of experience requirement. So you can, even if you are a fresher, you can join these kind of trainings and you will be eligible to take the certification. I think that helps.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So don't worry. Even if you have more questions to us, feel free to visit on our website, put up some queries. Sudhanshu number is already there with you guys. Please make a note. You can take a snapshot of this particular one. And you can also write down us email on training@cisainfosec.com. With that, guys, I think I have already consumed enough time from you guys. It's 1 hour, 15 minutes. So I will sign off for the day. We will meet soon into our next webinar. So stay tuned with us. We are going to bring some very quality content for you guys from a learning perspective. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, for joining this particular webinar. And we will get back to you with the answers as well. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, everyone, to join.